Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I am Uzma Jafri. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 5th of July. Flood situation remains grim in northeast India. Afghan pre-election tensions rise as protest turns violent. And Sri Lankan Navy detains 12 Indian fishermen. And now for all the details. The overall flood situation in India's Assam province deteriorated on Wednesday, with more than 40,000 people reeling under the deluge across the northeastern region. Officials have expressed concern as the water level of the Brahmaputra river is rising every day.
The flood situation in India's northeast Assam province turned further grim on Wednesday after several districts experienced heavy rains in the past 24 hours. With increase in rainfall in the province, the water level of the colossal Brahmaputra river has also significantly risen, touching the danger mark. As per reports, the rains have flooded at least 56 villages, affecting more than 40,000 people, while over 30 deaths were reported. People have left their residences and shifted to safer places.
कोई राशन बेसन नहीं है, सरकारी आदमी नहीं दिखता है, इधर में कोई नहीं है, आदमी घर में है.
According to an official of the Central Water Commission, every hour the water level of the Brahmaputra river is rising about 2 to 3 centimeters. Annual rainfall is essential in India as rains support two-thirds of 1.25 billion population living in rural areas who rely on farming. But excessive rainfalls cause problems like floods, landslides and waterborne diseases.
In news from Pakistan, BILAWAL Bhutto ZARDARI, the 29-year-old son of late Benazir Bhutto, has taken to the streets to claim the position held previously by his mother and grandfather Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The young leader has been campaigning in his native Sindh province ahead of the general elections on July 25.
His mother was assassinated on the campaign trail, and his grandfather was executed by a military dictator, but that has not prevented BILAWAL Bhutto ZARDARI from seeking the job they both held, Prime Minister of Pakistan. Oxford-educated and single, 29-year-old BILAWAL Bhutto ZARDARI is campaigning himself for the first time, traversing the sprawling plains of his native Sindh province to try to revive the fortunes of his Pakistan People's Party ahead of the July 25th general election. He was still in university when his mother, two-time Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, was assassinated in 2007 as she campaigned to restore democracy after military rule. Benazir's father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, also a Prime Minister, was hanged after being deposed in a military coup.
My mother always used to say that she didn't choose this life, it chose her. And in the same way, I feel like it applies to me. In that there's really no sort of greater sense of fulfillment in his son's life to feel like he's continuing with his mother's incomplete mission. So,
despite the feel-good feeling in the crowds, election time is always tense in Pakistan, which has been ruled by the military for almost half of the 70 years since independence. There always remains a fear that the election is being engineered by the Pakistan's much-feared military establishment and intelligence agencies, along with some senior civil servants and judges. The military has repeatedly denied that it interferes in modern-day politics.
In news from Afghanistan, at least one person was killed and several wounded on Wednesday when an ongoing protest against the detention of a popular Afghan police chief turned violent in Faryab province. The incident has underlined the tension between powerful regional leaders and President Ashraf Ghani ahead of elections due in October.
At least one person was killed and 9 were wounded in Afghanistan's Faryab province on Wednesday during a protest that underlined the tension between powerful regional leaders and President Ashraf Ghani ahead of elections due in October. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in Maiman, the capital of the northern province of Faryab, to demand the release of a prominent militia commander. The Commander Area Police Chief Nizamuddin Kesari is considered close to the Vice President General ABDUL Rashid Dostum, who is in exile in Turkey.
من 2 روز میشه که یک تظاهرات گسترده در فاریاب جریان داره، هیچ کدام نهاد نه امنیتی نه یک مسئول حکومتی نه یک شخص ذی صلاح یک پاسخ درستی برای صدای مردم فاریاب تا هنوز نداره.
Kesari was arrested after a violent dispute during a meeting with leaders of government security forces on Monday, drawing angry protest from Dostum supporters. The dispute has highlighted fragile security in Faryab, where Islamic State fighters have gained a foothold, battling militia commanders loosely affiliated with the government.
More on news from Afghanistan. Afghanistan's High Peace Council on Wednesday told the parliament that it is optimistic about peace talks with the Taliban. Officials from the council said if the Taliban reaches an agreement with the government, other groups will not be able to continue their war in the country.
Officials from Afghanistan High Peace Council or HPC on Wednesday said they are optimistic about the possibility that the Taliban could soon send a delegation to hold talks with the Afghan government. HPC Secretary Chief Akram Pulwag said the Haqqani network could also be part of the Taliban's delegation. He said if the Taliban reaches an agreement with government, other groups will not be able to continue their war in the country.
امیدوار هستیم که طالبان بالاخره جواب پاسخ مثبت به تعیین یک هیئت از طرف خود که نماینده مستقیم و نماینده با صلاحیتش باشه به مذاکرات مستقیم به حکومت جمهوری اسلامی افغانستان تعیین کنه.
Efforts to reach a peace agreement in Afghanistan have been ramped up this year following the successful Kabul process meeting in February. At the Kabul process meeting, President Ashraf Ghani said government was ready to talk to the Taliban and hold peace negotiations without any preconditions. The Taliban has not responded to the offer yet.
12 Indian fishermen were apprehended by the Sri Lankan Navy on Thursday and their 2 boats were impounded for allegedly fishing illegally in its waters. Fishermen from both the countries frequently stray into each other's territory and end up spending years in jails.
Sri Lankan Navy on Thursday arrested 12 Indian fishermen for allegedly poaching in its territorial waters. The fishermen had gone out fishing when they were apprehended by the Sri Lankan Navy from near the Karainagar area in the early hours of the day, and their 2 boats were seized. Fishermen from both the countries frequently stray into each other's territory and then end up spending years in jails.
ராமேஸ்வரத்திலிருந்து மீன்பிடிக்க சென்ற 2 விசைப்படகுகளும் 12 மீனவர்களையும் இலங்கை கடற்படை கைது செய்து சிறையில் வச்சிருக்காங்க. இப்படி தொடர்ச்சியாக நம்ம தமிழக மீனவர்கள் மீது இலங்கை கடற்படை தாக்குதல் தொடுக்கிறது, கைது செய்யற நடவடிக்கைங்கிறது தொடரும். இப்ப இது குறித்து நாங்க நடத்தாத போராட்டம் கிடையாது, நாங்க பார்க்காத அமைச்சர்கள் கிடையாது.
India shares an expansive oceanic border with Sri Lanka without any perceptible demarcation, and fishermen on both sides ignore rules while netting their catch. Sri Lanka has long fumed over poaching and illegal fishing by Indian fishermen that it says depletes the catch of its own fishermen. This is the first incident of arrest after the fishing ban period ended on June 14th.
Moving on to news from Nepal. Nepalese army has deployed choppers to evacuate pilgrims stranded in mountains due to torrential rains and landslides in parts of the country. The army so far has rescued a fraction of more than 400 to 500 Hindu pilgrims who were stuck while undertaking an annual Hindu pilgrimage.
A fraction of more than 400 to 500 Hindu pilgrims stranded in Nepal's mountainous region were rescued by the Nepalese army as they deployed military choppers and commercial flights in Simikot area. The pilgrims undertaking the annual Hindu pilgrimage, Kailash Mansarovar, were stuck due to torrential rains and landslides in parts of Nepal. Nepalese army are deployed Mi-17 military helicopter for the rescue work, which had already made 2 flights since the last update, and several people were rescued then.
Easily 400 to 500 people are still stuck in hillside in Simikot, and this is a problem because many of them are heart patients, many of them are suffering from altitude sickness, and this is causing a major chaos and panic among the yatris.
Today's rescue operation, Nepalese Army's Mi-17, it rescued till now 2 flights, that is 45% from Simikot to Birennagar Surkhet. So our priority, our flight is the priority flight. So what we are doing is, those who are sick, elderly aged people, we are evacuated these people from Simikot to the Surkhet.
Heavy rains had been pouring down on Simikot area since Sunday, which made it difficult to carry out the rescue operations. Once the water cleared onto a stay, rescue operations were in full swing. The Kailash Mansarovar pilgrimage in Tibet is a revered tradition for Hindus. Every year, hundreds of devotees of Hindu god Shiva undertake the pilgrimage, which involves rigorous trekking under inhospitable conditions.
A Hindu temple in India's northern Uttar Pradesh province helps people to assess whether there would be good rainfall or not based on the size of water droplets that fall from its ceiling. The temple, popularly known as the Monsoon Temple, is more than 100 years old, and farmers from far and near places come to pray in it.
A temple in Kanpur city of India's northern Uttar Pradesh province predicts good or bad monsoon based on the size of water droplets that fall inside the temple's sanctorum from its ceiling. It is believed that water droplets on the roof of the Hindu temple is a marker of arrival of monsoon season. The temple, popularly known as the Monsoon Temple, is dedicated to Hindu god Jagannatha in Bihata village and is more than 100 years old.
इससे मालूम होता है कि इस वर्ष साधारण बरसात होगी। किस तरह से अंदाजा लगाया? कि बूंदों के आधार पर, यदि बूंदें ज़्यादा मात्रा में टपकती हैं तो ज़्यादा मात्रा में बरसात होगी, यदि बूंदें कम टपकती हैं तो इससे मालूम होता है कि बरसात जो है नॉर्मल होगी, साधारण बरसात होगी।
India, which is the land of temples and historic monuments and famous for its accurate scientific predictions, has always created an enigma with its precise observation and calculations. For thousands of years before the development of modern means of forecasting weather, the elders in the villages used to make accurate predictions by looking at the changing color of the sky and the sun's directions.
Fisheries graduates in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province have set an aquatic business which is attracting everyone. The group of talented youths aim to promote aquaculture in their province and make people aware of the ornamental fish culture.
Fish aquarium business is nowadays becoming a major attraction for both graduates of fisheries in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province. The talented youth of the valley are showing keen interest in all kinds of activities that are related to fisheries, aiming to make their future bright in the field. Out of them, a group of energetic fisheries graduates headed by Saqib Ahmed has started making fish aquariums that attract everyone.
बिल्कुल सर, क्योंकि मैं देखता हूँ कि जो भी यहाँ पे फ़िश फार्म्स वगैरह हैं तो देयर इज़ अ गैप बिटवीन डिपार्टमेंट एंड दोज लोकल फ़िश फार्मर्स। तो हम इंशाल्लाह हमारा ये भी एक पॉइंट है कि हम इस तरह भी काम कर सकते हैं कि हम एक फ़िश फार्म कंसल्टेंसी खोल रहे हैं फ़िश फार्मर्स के लिए।
Knowing that aquatic business has an untapped potential, Ahmed and his group, with their knowledge of fisheries, now want to relay the pros of aquarium, keeping to the people of Kashmir.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.